There we go. There you are.
Hello.
Hi, Milly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so yes, we have the lovely Milly joining us, who is ex-Grierson Trust. Do you want to start by telling us what is Grierson Trust?
Right, so the Grierson Trust is a film and television body, and they do like an awards ceremony, kind of like the BAFTAs, I guess, but for documentary. But they also have a scheme for people entering the industry between the ages of 18 to 25, to help them get into documentary and unscripted television.
Amazing. And that was something that you were part of, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was a Doc Lab core trainee, which is one of the training schemes that they offer, and I did that in 2021. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And you've been doing a variety of things since, haven't you? You've been working on loads of different productions. So do you want to give us like a really quick history of what you did after the Grierson Trust up until now?
Yeah, so I specialized in development, which is an area that a lot of people don't know about in TV. Development's basically the people who come up with the ideas and you research and develop it and pitch it to commissioners, unlike being on a shoot or shooting with people. So it's a bit different. So after the Grierson Trust, after I did the Doc Lab training scheme, during that scheme at the very end, I did a placement, like a work experience placement at another company called Renegade, which was for development, and it was about 2 weeks. And in that time, I got to learn a lot about that process and coming up with ideas, creating pitch decks and documents, and creating things called quiz sets, which is like test questions for sort of TV shows, like entertainment shows. Um, that was really fun. And then my first full-time job in the TV industry was as an office runner at Arrow International Media, which is it's an English company, but they do a lot of US true crime shows for Discovery, including one called Body Cam, which is quite well known in the US. So as an office runner, I ran the whole building, for the productions, development, execs, everything. So it gave me this really good like oversight of how the industry worked and at what level what thing does what, etc. And also during that time, I got to help with productions, with research on several different productions, including Body Cam. There was one science show about inventions, which I can't remember the name of, I'm afraid. And also See No Evil, which is another true crime show, which is about found footage from security cameras tracking down murderers and sort of serial killers and things like that. So I did a mixture of story finding, general research, background checking, which is where you check the people that are in your documentary don't have any previous crimes, so you're not advocating for someone who's done something wrong. And I also helped a lot with development while I was in that job as well, which is along the lines of what I do now, but I did that alongside a general office runner job as well. During that time, I also got to go on a drama recon shoot, which is essentially, if you've ever seen a true crime documentary on Netflix and they have that sort of really cinematic sequence where there's like a fake person who's pretending to do a crime. That's basically what it is. So I went for a week to stay at this insane mansion with this whole production crew to film these recreations of different computer-related crimes, and that was a lot of fun. I got to help the camera crew a lot on that time. Then I went back to my normal job. Then I got scouted through the Grierson site for this development research position at NOAA, which is where I'm at the moment, which is, in short, I get paid to come up with ideas for documentaries and then pitch them, which is a lot of fun.
Oh my God, the dream job. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Also, like staying at a mansion reenacting crimes sounds like something that no one would ever think was a job, but it is. So that's kind of amazing in itself. So you've reeled off a number of names of companies there that I'm sure no one knows exists. Has it been really interesting being part of this world and being like, oh my God, I totally thought it was just like 4 big companies that produced or created everything. But oh my goodness me, there are thousands of small companies out there that I didn't know existed, but actually are able to hire young people like me.
Yeah, I think that when you haven't really done any work in the TV industry, and if you've been sort of learning through school or just through observation by watching TV, you sort of think of the main channels as being the ones that create these programs, but that's not actually what happens. And that's why the process of what my job is quite interesting, because I'll work for one of the smaller companies, which is a production company, come up with the idea, take it to one of those channels or streamers, for example, pitch it. And if the commissioner at that company, not the company, at that channel or streamer likes it, then they will pay for us to make it. So it's kind of a complicated process. So I'm kind of that initial stage. And then people in the production come afterwards once that's been commissioned. Um, and yeah, that's a job I never really thought I knew would existed until I started doing the Grierson Lab scheme.
That's amazing. So there's quite a long chain that people don't know exists, and there are multiple jobs throughout the chain that, again, people don't know are a thing. And actually, just along that line of thought, let's stepping back to when you were at school, because obviously, everyone who is watching here is, between the ages of probably about 14 to 18. Did you know that what you are doing now, or any of the jobs that you've done throughout your career, did you know that they were jobs? Did you think that you would be ending up doing what you do now?
I think I thought that TV people did sort of everything. I didn't really realize there were so many different jobs in TV and film. When it comes to unscripted, so documentary, there is a ridiculous amount of jobs. You've got producers, directors, researchers, loggers, editors, edit assistants, production secretaries, production management. Like there's whole different areas that you can go into depending on what your skill set is. I like the job I'm in right now because I can dabble in a bit of everything. And that's like a dream come true for me, because I think when I was in school, I was like, I don't want to do one thing. I want to do multiple things.
Absolutely. And actually, I think so many people would like to do that, but they don't know that that is an option. Absolutely. Okay, so what is the advice that you would give your 16-year-old self right now? So let's say, 16-year-old Milly is like, I know I want to work in TV or film, still don't know what that looks like. What is the advice you would give her?
I would probably tell myself to apply for different schemes at that age. I went to film school as well. I didn't say that in the intro, sorry. I went to do a degree in film production, which specialized mainly in fiction and cinematography. And I wanted to do documentary while I was at university, but it wasn't really much of an option when I was there either. And that's how I found the Grierson Trust. But if I was 16 years old, I probably, if I could go back, I would tell myself, actually, there are all of these different things that you can do and apply for when you're that age. I know that BBC actually does do like work experience placements for 16 plus year olds. So it's definitely worth looking at those options when you're that young, because getting that initial experience is literally the main thing. As soon as you have one thing on your CV, it kind of dominoes from there, but getting that first role is probably the hardest.
100%. And that's actually really good advice. Also, guys, just so you know, that's basically what we do at Eric on the Eric app. We accumulate together all of those initiatives, schemes, programs, all that stuff that Milly is talking about. The Grierson Trust actually promote their programs on the Eric app. We accumulate the Grierson Trust stuff and loads more. And then we put them all on the app so that people like Milly, when she was 16 years old, and also probably now, can use the app to find those kind of schemes and initiatives really, really easily in a really slick manner. Oh my goodness me, that's so interesting, Milly. Okay, so tell us about what the kind of progression is from here. So like, where do you go? Because you're researching, now, sorry, not researching, you're coming up with ideas for documentaries and stuff now. What happens next? Where do you go next?
So at the moment, I'm a development researcher, but I do get involved with shoots sometimes. So I'm pretty flexible. I have experience sort of across the board to an extent within the roles that I've been doing. So if I'm talking about exclusively development, normally the progression is it could be a junior development researcher. Sometimes it just goes straight to development researcher. Then it will go to potentially junior assistant development producer. Then it will go to assistant producer in development, and then main development producer, senior development producer, and then there's sometimes a head of development as well. It does depend on the scale of the company, and each of the roles are slightly different, but you can imagine it as sort of taking on slightly more responsibility going up.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I mean, the terminology that is consistent there is producer. You just got to, if you're applying to a role, make sure it's the right kind of producer. It's quite a confusing chain. So that's definitely good to know. Okay, and tell us a bit more about the Grierson Trust. Okay, so the program that you went on, I know that you said you were able to kind of learn lots about, you know, careers in film and TV. Tell us more about the kind of stuff, if a young person who's watching now was applying to the Grierson Trust tomorrow, what would they be able to expect?
So the Dot Club training scheme, if once you get in, it's a training week around May, June time, where over the course of a week, you'll have speakers come on to, it will either be in person or on Zoom, depending on how that works now. Because I did it during the pandemic, so it's sort of a bit more strict then. So I think it might be in person now. You'll have speakers that come in from different production companies, commissioners from like actual TV broadcasters, and you'll be doing a lot of sessions on how TV works, what different departments are, and across the whole week you'll also be developing an idea. So you have an idea at the beginning, and then each day you're going to sort of build off of it, and then at the very end you'll actually pitch that to a panel within the Griersons. There's a lot of other sort of different workshops within that are very interesting, and they do vary each year, but it will be anything from sort of technological support, like how to use a camera and how do you edit and things like that. And across the year, they have other workshops as well, where you do an in-person camera training, you do an in-person edit training. And of course, they do a 2 to 4 week placement within a production company, one of the companies that they will work with. So there's a lot of companies that they are connected with the Griersons, and they'll take trainees that are in that current cohort for 2 weeks to basically learn about a specific area, whether it's production or development, editing, or production management. And it's really useful because, like I said, that first role is probably the hardest to get. So if you have that placement, it ensures that you can progress from there. What else do they do? So they set you up with a buddy. So a buddy is someone who's maybe 2 to 3 years ahead of you in the industry, and they can give you much more casual advice. Like if you wonder what a certain light is or something, you can be like, hey, what is this? And they'll tell you. Then you'll also have a mentor, someone who's a lot more senior in the industry. So my mentor is actually Sam Emery, and he's a documentary director. And I meet with him once a month still, even though the scheme's finished for me. And you can ask them for career advice and also learn about their own work and potentially what you could do in the future. And I found that really valuable, actually. What else have you done? So they have frequent sort of random seminars that you can join as well with different speakers. And even though I finished in 2021, so I did it for a year, I'm still a part of the alumni. So there's a massive network which you can get in touch with, a big Facebook group, and you'll see jobs posted through there as well, where they're deliberately looking for somebody from the Griersons because they trust them. So there's a lot of different avenues to kind of come with if you do apply for the Griersons, especially if you're interested in unscripted. And just to clarify, unscripted isn't just documentaries. It's not just those big scale docs you get on Netflix. It's also any program which isn't scripted. So any reality TV show you like, or any dating show, any comedy panel show that is also unscripted.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's actually genuinely really good to know. I actually totally was thinking scripted was documentary. So that is really good to clarify. Thank you so much, Milly. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. I think we all have learned so much here. Film and TV is huge. There are loads of jobs available backstage in the kind of production side of things. So absolutely, hopefully everyone now knows that very clearly. Second of all, go and apply to the Grierson Trust right now, everyone who is at school. And if that is full, don't worry, there's loads more stuff like the Grierson Trust's scheme on the Eric app as well. So you can all download that and all go have a look.